Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerry Sansing. This is what's going on in Corpus Christi, Texas. And it's another, review of some of the things that the taxpayers are having to endure, since this is done predominantly as me, or by me, as the president of the Taxpayers Association, Corpus Christi, Texas. So I'd like to start with that fact that I am a taxpayer. I pay dearly. I've got a property that I pay taxes on, and I pay according to the value of that into Del Mar College and the city and the county and the state and feds and everybody else under the sun. You know, I work for essentially nothing these days, especially when you're trying to make it through. And we don't have any raises or anything over at Del Mar, which I'll talk about in a minute. Okay? Now, what I'd like to discuss is Del Mar College first, and I'm going to play a 5-minute rebuttal to what I'm saying by Dr. Lee Sloan, who's the Chief Financial Officer at Del Mar College. Now, I'm coming from a point of view of being told with a partner of mine in BS Investigations, one Mr. Ed Bennett, who happens to have a bachelor's in business administration. He earned a master's of science degree in accountancy, which means he knows accounting, okay? And he's been a CPA for a long number of years, 30 years plus, in some of the finest and largest companies around, and he's still a practicing CPA. Now, what has bugged us at Del Mar College is the fact that when we read the financial reports, they have a surplus amount of money at the end of the budget year. And there are two ways, I guess, to look at that. And I would look at it from the point of view of a seasoned CPA with a master's degree in accountancy and practicing all the time, and a chief financial officer at Del Mar College who has absolutely no accounting experience that we can tell, not even an accounting class in his EDD, which is a Doctor of Education in Agricultural Education. Okay, so I don't know who I'm going to believe. The medicine man, or am I going to believe a seasoned surgeon when it comes to having things worked on? Now, the clip that you're about to see was the result of Mr. Bennett and I uncovering the fact that over 11 years we thought there was a surplus of $73 million upon looking back over some of the corrected information from Del Mar, and these are all Del Mar College numbers, folks, right out of their financial statements and so forth. And it's probably, we missed it by about $5 million. There's been some things that have happened in there and a few things that have not shown that they were a surplus, but we're looking about $68 million over 11 years. Okay? Now, I think the rub there is I'm an employee of Del Mar College. At the professor level, I'm tenured professor, and I have a set salary per year. And when I looked that up, I found out that that's 33% less than the average tenured faculty member with my credentials and experience in the state of Texas. So that's a concern to me now that we've been looking that up. Now, for 6 years in a row, Del Mar College would not provide any employees except the president and a few select administrators a raise. Okay? Now, I think it was 2% last year, and it's up to about 7% this year after we kicked up a big fuss about this. So I'd like to just go ahead and say that we as taxpayers in the Del Mar College District have been overtaxed. You should not come up with a surplus into the 7 to 10, 12 million dollar a year range. That means that what happened is you're taking in $12 million more than your expenses. And if you're prudent with this, according to all I can gather out of accountant courses and so forth and so on, and prudency with taxpayers' money, is it should be zero at the end. and that would include a certain amount of money that Del Mar has to put into a fund in case there is an emergency. Okay? But these are well above that. Now, another thing that has happened with that money is they have gone out, Del Mar College, and this is all under the control of your elected officials, the Del Mar College Board of Regents. And they don't seem to have any problem with having these overages and so forth and so on, and surplus monies. So I don't know what to tell you folks, except they're being bamboozled, I guess, by the administration. They just seem to go, just hog wild. They don't have any problem whatsoever believing what they're told over there. And you'll see that in the 5-minute film. Okay? Now, I resent the fact that if you've got that much excess money, you're out buying 95 acres of ground, and now you're going to go, and the administration and the board is hell-bent on going after a south campus out there. So they're going to need a bond from you fine folks out there for around $200 million to build a campus that at this stage of the game, and I can't see even in the near or in the far future, that we need. Okay? Now, everybody says that the town is booming, we're bursting at the seams with enrollment at Del Mar College. That's not true, folks. We're down about 15 to 18% over the last 3 years. And what we have is we have people who are going over there with these dual credit courses, okay? And the dual credit people are not on campus. They're being taught at the high schools. And then there is some controversy about our people that are Del Mar College instructors that are going over there and teaching those classes and what the compensation is, okay? And as far as I know, that we get very little from CCISD as far as tuition goes for those classes. So there's a lot of things that are really fouled up. So if we've got a large portion of our population, student population, dual credit, then we don't need a campus to house them on because they're not on campus. They're in the high schools. The professors are going to them. Okay? All right. So when I'm told that the college is broke for 6 years and they've got the millions of dollars in surplus funds, but we can't give anybody a raise except the administration, then I get a little bit concerned about that, folks. And I'm going to be really, really watching this next board election for the Board of Regents members because something's got to change at Del Mar College. We can't perpetuate this. Okay? Now, I say no raises. I do know that one year the president got a 20 or 10% raise. I think that was not this year, but the year before this, when I think that the faculty got a whopping 2%, or the employees across the board did. And that didn't cover our increase in insurance premiums and so forth and so on. But here the president gets a 10% raise and then a $15,000 performance bonus. I think he's getting a car allowance, I'm sure it is, I'll ask for it. A telephone, he goes meals, I know he takes people out to meals like the town club before it closed down and so forth, and that was billed to Del Mar College, and that's taxpayers' money. Okay? Now, so I'm going to go ahead and see if you can figure out what this man is talking about, Dr. Lee Sloan, our Chief Financial Officer, when he tries to explain that these are not surpluses, and he's dancing around with all this verbiage. And my partner CPA, who's got a vast amount of experience in education, he says this is kind of twisting the verbiage around to set up a smoke screen. So I'm going to ask the videographer here to take a moment and go ahead and play that 5-minute clip, and I'll be right back with you. What we had was a 5-minute gap that we wanted to have in several of our shows on public access TV. And unfortunately, when we looked at the DVD that we had from a board meeting where Dr. Lee Sloan was disparaging our numbers and so forth and so on.
Oh, hold it. Those were his numbers.
Okay, disparaging his numbers that we had reported, then We figured out when I got the copy of the DVD of that meeting that it does have a copyright on the front. So in order not to infringe on anyone's copyright, particularly Del Mar College's, what we're going to do is splice this 5 minutes in and go ahead and discuss what Dr. Sloan was talking about, which was that our numbers, which were his numbers, were incorrect. So I don't understand what's going on, but maybe you can. You're the CPA and accountant.
I would like to say that I can, but doctor, I would be totally lying. So let me explain what I thought he was trying to say.
Okay.
But I'm not really sure what he was trying to say. He said the numbers I used were wrong, even though they appear in his annual financial report.
Okay.
He said you can't use them that way. Well, the numbers I used are the basic accounting formula. Assets minus liabilities equals equity.
Okay.
So that's what I was looking at, the change in equity between 2005 and 2015,
Right.
which was somewhere between 68 and 73 million after restatement and considering the close for this year.
Okay.
So that's the change in equity. And how did equity change? Only one way. Revenues exceeded expenses for that period of time by that amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
That was what we said because that's what his financial statement said.
Right.
Now, Dr. Stone was saying something about the net position is accumulation of all funds. Well, it will be all funds and all other assets minus all liabilities. That will be what's called net position or equity. We would generally refer to it as equity. So that was part of it, but
Well, let me ask you this: as a person with a BBA, Bachelor's in Business Administration, and a master's degree, not just an MBA, but a master's degree in accountancy.
Master's of Science Accountants.
Okay, all right. And then, what, 30 years now as a CPA?
More than that, actually.
Okay.
More than 30
with
years.
Some of the biggest companies around.
With starting out with a big 8 CPA firm,
Okay.
which basically hires the top 10% of the graduates from college.
Okay. Well, let me ask you just very bluntly, yes or no. Did you understand what Dr. Sloan was trying to say?
No.
Okay.
No, I was not able to follow him. I think I know what he was looking at. I couldn't quite interpret it the way he was trying to interpret it. And when he said that you can't look at our financials, which is his financials, he's the
Right.
author.
Right.
He and Mr. Johnson are the authors
Right.
of those financial statements. You can't look at his numbers that way. That's the basic accounting formula.
Okay.
That's how everybody looks at accounting numbers.
Right.
Assets minus liabilities equals equity.
Right.
Revenue minus expenses equals net profit.
Right.
That's how we analyzed it.
Well, you know, when I came through, I mean, my mathematics may be lacking with all the way through differential equations and a graduate class in statistics, but still, when I add 2 plus 2, it comes up 4.
And this was clearly arithmetic. This is not math. This is arithmetic.
Okay, all right.
Assets minus liabilities equal equity, which they call net position.
Okay.
Revenue minus operating expenses equal net profit. That's all we were talking about.
That's right.
And
Okay, well, I
what was he
understand
talking
that.
about?
I don't know.
He wasn't talking about that.
No.
And what was he talking about? Well, we've looked at it several times now.
Right.
And I can tell you, I don't know.
Okay. Well, so in order to protect everybody from copyright, and Lord knows I don't want to infringe upon a copyright with Del Mar College on this public broadcast of the Board of Regents meetings that day. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to see this, then you can order a copy of the DVD of that particular Board of Regents meeting. I've got one, and that's when we saw the copyright on the label that they did.
And it is available on the internet as well.
Right. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they posted it on the internet.
So if you'd like to try to figure out what this was all about with Dr. Sloan, then please go in and look it up.
And Doctor, I can't figure out what he was saying, but I did catch one thing. We said, based on his numbers, and they are his numbers, that they had increased the equity, which is the net position, over that period of time by somewhere between $68 and $73 million.
Right.
He said, no, we only increased our surplus by $28 million.
Okay.
Okay, now he said only $28 million. As a professor that didn't get a raise for approximately 6 years, does that make you feel much more comfortable that it only increased by about $28 million?
No, not at all. And it's
And,
not.
and,
It's,
and that's not the right number anyway.
well, it's just not me, but there are an awful lot of good folks over there that needed a raise, folks. They worked their hearts out over there. You know, I mean, here I am, 26, 27 years into this as a second career. But it's a shame when I have people, custodians and so forth, that are fired by Del Mar College, and then several of them are brought back at a lesser amount of money, and they're working their hearts out over there. So that's what galls me.
And when we talk about surplus in a cash flow reference, okay, now what that's going to be is revenue minus expenses minus acquisition of fixed assets such as our 95 acres of land.
Of land that we don't need.
Well, that we're trying to maintain, but the tractor got stuck.
Yeah, it bogs down. When it rains out there, it's a swampland, folks, so they get bogged down.
So I'd like to argue with this set of Dr. Stone's numbers versus the set that we used.
Right.
But I can attest that the set that we used came right out of his annual report, and they mean exactly what we said they mean. And we checked him. They were his numbers, but we checked them. They made perfect sense to us.
Right.
Now, what he has said here, we've watched it several times, and it still makes absolutely no sense to me.
Okay. Well, I guess we better leave it at that, and I'm sorry for the splice that we have to put into this show, but, you know, stuff happens, and hey. And
if anyone can figure out what he says, if you watch the DVD, email us.
Please.
We're very, very interested.
Right. Mine's gsamsing@gmail.com.
And you can reach me at ed@southtexasmis.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. I hope you understood what was going on there. I really don't. Okay, I'm not a CPA, don't claim to be. I'm an educator, researcher by trade. So, but I do know, you know, I took a little bit of math. I went through differential equations and a graduate course and statistics and that type of thing. So I know that when you have a budget of $6 and you have an income of $8, then you don't zero out the budget. You've got a surplus money there, I think, of $2. Okay? Well, this is what's happened at Del Mar College. So I'm going to let that play out, and we'll see what happens and see how much more of a smoke and mirrors game that we're going to have played on us at Del Mar College. Now, what I'd like to do is also tell you that we're having problems, massive problems, with some other things at Del Mar, and particularly when a private citizen like me or Mr. Ed Bennett, my CPA partner, write for public information to find out what in the world is going on at Del Mar College. Now, since that is a taxpayer supported entity, folks, then all the records except personnel records with social security numbers on them, ID numbers, addresses, and so forth, telephone numbers should not be published. But any other information should be wide open over there for the public to know about. So here's what my partner has written. These went out on the 21st of September. Now, I've got a problem with hiring a custodial service over there that is what I consider to be substandard. Okay? I have asked for indemnification in case one of the untrained custodians gets hurt in a laboratory cleaning up, because I know what's going to happen. It's going to be UCLA all over again, where a professor out there was sued in a civil court, so was the UCLA president and the university out there. But in addition to that, there were criminal charges filed. I think it was manslaughter because a student went into a lab unassisted and burned herself up. Okay? So if I have a custodian going into my area where I've got live bacterial fungal cells and so forth, and a lot of chemicals that you can get into trouble with, and they're untrained, and they knock something over or they expose themselves, then I do not want to be sued for that because I have nothing to do with the training of those custodians. That is up to the company. And when they first came in and gave us the razzle-dazzle about what they were going to do, everyone was going to be trained to be able to clean things to hospital standards. Now, I don't know what hospital they compared it to. You know, maybe one over on the Amazon River, upriver there in one of those villages somewhere that has never seen a civilized person before, you know, a witch doctor. But, folks, I'm not taking that risk. Now, I've asked for that on several occasions over the past several years, and I have not even got a simple response from the administration. So I'm putting you on public notice right now. If somebody gets hurt in there, then I'm going to use this portion of this show, and I've told you as taxpayers that I have not had a word. No one will talk to me about that. The safety officers were supposed to talk to me. The custodial service was supposed to talk to me, and I haven't heard a peep out of any of them yet. Okay? And that doesn't make me feel real comfortable working for a institution where you can't get answers. And that seems to be common over there. I'll discuss the request for faculty meetings that have been turned down and ignored and so forth on another day. But here's what Mr. Bennett asked for. Now, since we are concerned about what needs to be done by the custodial service, okay, then what Mr. Bennett said was, he said he would like, through the Texas Public Information Act request, Government Code 552, he would like to have a copy of any contract between GCA Services Group Incorporated and Del Mar College from the years of 2011 through 2015. Okay. A copy of any cost-benefit analysis related to the decision to replace Del Mar College employees with contracted services provided by GCA Services Group Incorporated. That was submitted on September the 1st, and then on October the 6th, thank you for your Texas Information Act request of September so-and-so and so-and-so. Okay, in response to your Public Information Act request, the college will need additional time to assemble responsive documents. We anticipate having a response no later than Wednesday, October the 14th, 2015. Now this is Sunday, October the 11th, folks. Okay? So maybe that would be, let's see, Wednesday of this coming week. This should be on YouTube before that. But this is very typical. You get a letter stating that they need more time to provide us with his information. Pardon me, I need to wet my whistle here. Okay, you can see that I'm not a professional reporter. All right, now, the second one that went in September 21st, any engagement letter for auditing services to be provided for Del Mar College related to the fiscal year end August 31st, 2015, including a letter from the CPA firm Collier, Johnson & Woods. Okay? So what we're trying to figure out is what type of arrangement they're going to have with this new auditing. And where our auditing bills in a budget have gone from $43,000 last year to $310,000 this upcoming year. Okay? That's a lot of money, folks. That's a pretty big increase, is it not? Okay. Now, here's another one. Now, well, let me read you this response to this one. It's the same noise. In response to your PIA request, the college will need additional time to assemble responsive documents. Now, you mean to tell me that you don't have, sitting in a file somewhere, the engagement letter for auditing services to a certain company? Why do you need more time for that? That's a stall tactic, folks. and that's against the Public Information Act, the subchapter 552. Okay. All right, now, then here's the third one that went out on September 21st. It says, number one, any analysis in support of administration's decision not to provide college employees with salary adjustments or salary increases between the fiscal years 2008 and 2014. Okay? We want to find out what's going on. Okay? Now, the response from Mrs. Tammy McDonald, the Executive Director, Human Resources and Administration, and the college's Public Information Act officer, it says, we will need additional time to assemble responsive documents for the first and second bullet points. Well, that was the first one. The second one, any email to employees or staff related to the decision not to provide college employees with raises for any period from fiscal years 2008 to 2014. We want to know who made those decisions, folks. Okay? Because I remember vividly, we don't have any money. We're in a time, we're in a financial crunch here. Now, I don't know how you can be in a financial crunch when you got $10 million average overage over several past years, but I'm not an accountant, so maybe I'm not capable of figuring that out. We'll see. Okay, now, any documentation of the use of any excess revenue over operating expenses for the period from fiscal year 2008 to 2014. And here was the response. Sent a clarification request to you for third bullet point on 10/5/15. So they wanted a clarification. Now, documentation of the use of excess revenue ought to be really very easy to pull up, folks. I mean, you had the excess revenue. What did you do with it? Do you know what you've done with it? I don't know. If you need clarification of that, then I think something's wrong over there in interpreting the English language. Okay, now, all applications for the position of internal auditor received by Del Mar College during the period from January 1, 2008 through July 31st, 2015. Now, I think that's clear. Now, we haven't had an in-house position for internal auditor for at least 10 years at Del Mar College. Okay, now we've gone from, like I say, $43,000 for our auditing up to $310,000. So they're going to hire an outside part-time firm to act as the internal auditor. So why haven't we had one all that time? Now, on the response to that request of the 4 that were on this single PIA, it says, the college, in response to your PIA request, the college is seeking an Attorney General opinion for responsive documents requested in the 4th bullet point. On behalf of Del Mar College and under separate cover, you will be receiving a copy of a letter concerning the request for an AG opinion from the law firm of Graves, Daughtry, Heron, and Moody. They're the ones that had the check written to them in June for about 3 checks totaling about $60,000, and then the next in July it was well into 5 figures. Okay, and so I guess they don't even go to the bathroom over there or brush their teeth without permission from this extremely expensive $400 an hour Graves Daughtry attorney up there, Mr. Christian. Okay, so where's your tax money going, folks? All right. Now, also, I have requested some information, and I'm going to go ahead and read that. I was going to go over financial statement fraud. It's a flow chart. It says the fraud tree. This is from the Fraud Examiner's Manual, and I've been going over this one. It heads, the head topics are corruption, asset misappropriation, fraudulent statements, and so forth. I don't know what's going on at Del Mar College. I'm not accusing them of anything, but I'm going to find out if I can understand if there are problems, if I can determine what they may be. Okay? All right. Now, very quickly, I had asked Dr. Mark Escamilla for 2 for two, I made two requests in one, okay? Now, during 2013, I uncovered the fact that Del Mar College had written off a bunch of money. One of those write-offs for $89,073.50 was to the Council of Government, which is the Coastal Bend Council of Governments, and the other one was $54,267.29 to Texas A&M Kingsville. Now, we have asked, and we had to force an answer out of the Coastal Bend Council of Governments through the AG's office, okay? But I have a document here that states that they can find no evidence in their files, and this is signed by one of their people, okay, who's the Public Information Officer, John P. Buckner, with the Coastal Bend Council of Governments, okay? And he stated that there's no responsive documents, because I asked for anything that that they had to justify Del Mar writing off $89,000 some odd dollars. So in this one, I went ahead and I wrote and I said I want to have all the documents that Del Mar College used, and I've got the attachment where it states that they wrote it off, and so forth and so on, and I want to find out what happened with that one, okay? Also, I wanted the same information to justify the $54,000 write-off, anything in Del Mar College's possession, from Texas A&M University, Kingsville, okay? Now, here's what I get back. This is typical. Thank you for your Public Information Act. We anticipate having a response, wait a minute. In response to your PIA request, the college will need additional time to assemble responsive documents. We anticipate having a response to you no later than Tuesday, October 13th. The office will contact you. So, what do, folks? I mean, very, very seriously. This is your money. You have elected 9 people as board members of Del Mar College. I think there are 5 districts and 3 or 4 at-large people. Okay, maybe there's only 7 or 8. But where's the money going? Okay, how can they justify these surpluses? And then they put Dr. Sloan over there to try to smoke and mirrors to try to muddy the water up, so we don't know what in the world's going on. Well, I'm winding down to 20-something seconds. Please attend the Taxpayers Association meetings. They're the first Saturday of every month at Small Planet Deli out on Saratoga and Staples. And then I'll be sending out notice to you about the upcoming general membership meeting. So I'll keep you posted with that. So good night, folks. All right, Ed. I don't know, that ought to stir something. We'll see. I hate to have you have to cut and splice this, but I needed to get you that at least this meeting today. And I'm going to try to cut the other one here in a little bit, the South Texas News and Reviews. And I'll catch up with you this afternoon. I've got to go to that blasted CEC meeting and resign.